Hopefully, you're about to have a good weekend, man. So, new article came out. Zack Snyder's Man of Steel crushes James Gunn's Superman in a massive critical drinker poll. Now, before we jump into this article, apparently Grace Randolph has blocked a lot of the Snyder fan base on Twitter. But that poll still came to pass that James Gunn, which is kind of crazy to me. It was only like 19,000, I believe, that voted. But to think about that she blocked so many Snyder fans in the Snyder regime still won is kind of crazy. A regime, I guess I was trying to say. But let's go ahead and jump into the article, man. So this is by Matt McGloin. Matt does most of the articles, I believe. YouTuber Critical Drinker ran his own Superman poll during a live stream, and the results weren't even close. Okay, see, I didn't even know about this one. Unlike Grace Randolph's poll, which excluded thousands of Snyder fans due to years of blocking. Okay, so Drinker's audience poll wasn't skewed, and fans made their choice immediately. With more than 8,000 people watching live, fans picked Man of Steel over James Gunn's Superman within minutes. Out of 2,191 votes at the time of the screenshot, a whopping 90% chose Snyder's film, leaving Gunn's Superman with just 10%. A poll that actually reflects the audience. Drinker hasn't blocked the Snyderverse community, so his poll reached a full cross-section of the fandom. That's a direct contrast to Randolph's poll, where a huge portion of pro-Snyder accounts couldn't vote. The fact that Snyder dominated a poll in an open environment makes Randolph's poll, where Snyder won by only 1%, basically meaningless. Actually, it won by 2%, I believe. I thought he hit 44%, and James Gunn's was at 42%. Massive reach, massive signal. Critical Drinker has over 2.3 million subs, and his live streams regularly draw large, engaged audiences. As Snyder wins with 90% of the vote, that's not noise. That's a clear indicator of where the fan energy still is. Man of Steel continues to resonate, especially as Snyderverse interest surges across social platforms and international metrics. We are told when WBD is sold that the Snyderverse will return. Fan polling lines up with the box office history. James Gunn's Superman finished with 616.6 million worldwide, well below Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, which earned 670.1 million back in 2013. Adjusted for today's inflation, Man of Steel comes to in at nearly 1 billion. A massive gap that shows how strong the global interest was in Snyder's version of Superman. Snyder also crushed Gunn internationally. Man of Steel performed far better overseas, and especially in China. James Gunn's Superman made 8.9 million in China. Man of Steel made like 63 million. That is a big gap, and that's not including inflation. Foreign audience was a major driver for Snyder's DCEU's success, and it continues to be a market where fans show stronger support for his take on the character. That is the poll. So 44%, then 42% for James Gunn, with the total of 19,487 votes. And she blocked a lot of the fan base over the years. You can hate Zack, you can love Zack. Numbers do not lie. Zack's numbers are far better for DC than they are for James Gunn. James Gunn's DCU has failed, and it's failed miserably. Superman flopped in theaters, 42 million. Creature Commandos didn't chart. Peacemaker. It's funny when they say that it charted, but they didn't show the minutes watched because the minutes watch was extremely low compared to everybody else's. All these other projects that came out since James Gunn has taken over, it's been a flop machine. You could not live with your failure. So where does that bring you? Back to me. DCU cannot compete with Marvel. Speaking for myself, I'm not accepting James Gunn's Superman because it's just below quality. It's not good. His DCU is not good. James Gunn's Superman, when I watched it in theaters and gave it a chance, I was actually flabbergasted by how bad the movie was, by how corny the movie was, by how jokey the movie was. And that's not to mention that they took 25 to 30 minutes of comedy out of the movie, and it was still jokey. The scene where Superman gets kicked in the nuts and he holds his nuts and he makes a face at the screen, at the camera. That should tell you all you need to know about the DCU. You should never see the Man of Steel get kicked in the nuts and make a face like a 2-year-old on camera. Horrible, I said it. The best thing out of James Gunn's Superman was Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific was good. I like Mr. Terrific. I would like to see a backstory of Mr. Terrific. Mr. Terrific stole the show in Superman's own movie. Comparing James Gunn's Superman to Man of Steel blows Superman out of the water. I'm sorry, it just does. See, James Gunn's Superman didn't have stakes. It didn't feel like it had stakes to me because it was just such a comedy, and none of it seemed real. And people are saying with Lex Luthor was trash. I like Nicholas Hoult as an actor, but that version of Lex Luthor was corny. It was trash. He was literally a rich, spoiled kid, pretty much. And when he didn't get his way, he threw pencils on the floor and made his team pick it up multiple times. That's the kind of Lex Luthor he was. See, people don't put respect on Jesse Eisenberger. He made Superman kneel before him and didn't have to lay a finger on him. And he made Superman kneel before him. He made a god kneel before him. Now, I know technically Superman's not a god. Technically, I call him a god because he has godlike powers. He can move planets. He's a god to me, but I know technically he's not a god. But point is, he made Superman, the Man of Steel, kneel before him. He didn't have to use kryptonite. He didn't have to use a suit. He didn't have to use anything physical to make Superman kneel before him. And James Gunn's Superman is far, far below Man of Steel. That's why it didn't succeed in the box office. And that's why it flopped in the theaters. It's as simple as that. That's why it's not resonating with the fans. James Gunn's Superman did so good domestically because of crypto. Crypto was a heavy part of the marketing. And if you Google how many U.S. households have a pet, 70%. A lot of people came to see Superman just because of a dog. There's no comparison. We already know Man of Steel is far superior than James Gunn's Superman. You know, if the DCU was doing so good, half these people who hate on the people who like Snyder, they wouldn't be worried about us. We haven't heard anything about Supergirl. When James Gunn talked about Brainiac, it wasn't trending. Nobody is talking about James Gunn's DCU except people like me and other YouTubers and people who talk about the DC fandom. That's it. That's the only people talking about James Gunn's DCU projects. That's it. There's no hype behind them. So, Man of Steel is far superior. It's far superior movie in all aspects. So many epic moments, man. Man of Steel far superior than James Gunn's Superman. James Gunn's Superman is a very forgettable movie, and there's literally nothing I remember from that movie besides him getting kicked in the nuts and where's the dog, Luthor? That's the only things I can remember from that movie. And Mr. Terrific. So, I ain't gonna make this too much longer, but yeah, I want you guys to post your comments down below. Let me know what you guys think.